Hello. Welcome to Powering Journeys with Dr. K. And this is where we bring you inspiring stories of transformation and self discovery. I am so excited for this week's show. I have got one of my favorite people on ever, and he is one of the most accomplished men I have ever met. This man he's got his doctor's degree. He's a photographer. He's a speaker. He's an author. He's a producer. He's a phenomenal dad, a fabulous friend, and overall a terrific human being. That being said, I want to bring on Ken Rochon, also known as Dr. Smiley. Hi, Ken. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dr. Karen Perkins.
Yeah, just call me Karen. You know that.
I know. You were one of the people who inspired me to do the extra education. It was during the pandemic, and it's kind of funny how gifts happen, and you're just not thinking it'll ever happen to you. I mean, I said I wanted to write a book forever, and my mom, which we'll talk about later, got dementia, and that was my opening of, hey, it's time to get a book done. So it's really interesting that people and God's path is just a matter of time when you wake up and say, time to be powerful.
Oh, yeah, I love that. And you have inspired me. We've known each other now for what, going on 10 years, I guess it is.
10 years, yes.
And I tell you what, I have loved working with you. I've loved knowing you. I've loved watching you from afar as well as close up. And in fact, I think my first introduction to you was you taking a picture of me holding a Mr. Smiley business card. Yep, keep smiling. Yeah, I remember that. I remember it fondly because you had such energy.
Well, it was because you had the energy to draw me over to say, keep smiling. That was the beauty of it. I love it when I hand it to someone, Karen, and they say, but I am smiling. I go, I know, that's why it says keep smiling.
That's why it's keep smiling. It's not smile. Oh, that's funny. Well, let's jump into your journey. You have done so much and have seen so much. Tell me, I want to hear about your mom's dementia. I want to hear about little Kenny, and I know that's not what he likes to go by, but that's what I'll always know him by.
Right.
And some of the fabulous things you've done there. And then, of course, your book and your photography and all of the wonderful things that you do. So where to begin?
I don't often start at the beginning, but since we have a little time, I think it is a cool place to start. Rhode Island is where I was born, Warwick, Rhode Island. And I was whisked away as an army brat to Paris, France. But I love my state, Rhode Island, because it's the only state that has a square flag. And it's the only state that has hope on it. The only state. And yeah. I think subconsciously that impacted me so much. I wear hope on my wristband.
I love it.
And it's really the only jewelry. I mean, it's it. So I am hope is very reminiscent of a tattoo I saw someone have on their forearm right here, and they had on their they had the quote by Gandhi, "My life is my message," and that stuck with me because it is a choice. It's a choice whether you want to make your life a message. And by the way, if you don't make your life a message, that is actually your message.
Right. Well, I would say we leave a message. We might as well decide what it's going to be.
Right. And, I think the Keep Smiling card that you received, it's because I was honoring you that you actually play big. People that know that this journey is supposed to be fun and this journey is supposed to be positive and this journey is supposed to be an experience that you get and that you grow from, they're doing the journey right. And so when I give the card to someone, it is actually honoring them. It is funny, but that really is probably the best way to express why do you give a card to someone? Why? They affected my energy. I felt their energy, and I wanted to honor them for being that energy.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for that. That is such an honor.
Yeah, and you're in probably about a dozen books, but this is one of them. This is Dr. Michelle Mraz's book, and you are on your birthday. May I say your birthday?
Sure.
February 24th, and there's your photo. Hi, Kenny.
Yep, there I am.
Well, Kenny's here, and he knows that there's a live show, so can he step in real quick and say hi?
I would love it if he did.
All right, well, come on over, Kenny.
Hi, Kenny. How are ya?
I'm doing good. I came back from school.
And
Just got back from school. Hey, I know that you have got how many books now? 14?
15.
14.
Yeah, 15, 14.
In fact, you can even show the 14th one if you want. And you can even say why you made it. You can hold it up there.
Yeah.
Good. And it's kind of backwards, kind of. So you actually got to go the opposite
Oh.
way.
There you go.
And so tell why you made that. Why you made that.
I made it because I asked questions to my dad, and my dad asked questions to me, and we just went over and over. Then I had an idea to write a book about it. Then we started working on this. We asked each other questions back and forth.
You want to give an example of a question?
Yes. If you could get anything for Christmas, what would it be?
Okay, that's a neat one. And he also has questions like, if you could give anybody anything, what would it be, and who would it be for?
And also, if you could become anyone in the world, who would and why would you do it?
Yeah, and what would you do while you're them, and things like that. So I had I guess a hypothesis that the more questions you ask someone you love, the more you really connect with them, and the more your relationship gets super strong. And I realized also that Kenny was doing me a favor, because my mom and I were extremely close from a love standpoint, from a support standpoint, but not from knowing each other. She may have known me pretty well, but I didn't know my mom at all. I just knew she was amazing. So and then he did a 13th book just before, because he wanted other people to be able to enjoy what we did.
Oh yeah, this one, Conversations.
Oh, that's awesome.
You read it?
And so that tells you a little bit about it, getting to know the ones you love. Oh,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think Kenny and I will have a more special relationship moving forward, because I get him. That's one of the things I think kids that have puberty are dealing with. My mom and dad don't get me, so back off, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I really get my son. I think he really gets me. So it's not that it's going to be perfect, but it's going to be easier to communicate and easier to navigate, and just easier to empathize, I think.
Kenny, I've been hearing your dad tell stories about you since you were about 3 years old.
Yes.
And he is so proud of you. Now, I understand you're going to be doing some book signings in Vegas and anywhere else.
You got Rhode Island. You have.
Oh yeah, Rhode Island.
Maybe New Jersey.
Yeah, maybe New Jersey, and we went to Canada.
Yeah, you did Canada. He went to Niagara Falls and did a book signing.
Oh, awesome.
And because I know that he's getting ready for his big trip for a book signing, I was going to say, why don't he show you maybe a couple books, but I want him specifically to show you the book that caused me to write more books. Can you show her my first 10 years?
Okay. This one.
So this is my first 10 years.
It's so confusing.
Oh, wonderful.
And it's his philosophies on life. And he picked the back cover of him.
Oh, cute.
Actually, you picked the back cover of me actually holding you up in the air, right?
Yeah.
This is my version. I said, can I do a version of your book? And so I picked the back cover. So he wanted to do a book that was black and white. I wanted to do a book that was color, showing photos and his book. So we went ahead and did that. And it was pretty well received. And by the way, it caused me to reflect and say, well, gosh, if he can do 14 books by the age of 11 or 12 books by the age of 10, what am I making excuses for? So there's me.
Well, so you wrote it in the future since you're only 25, right?
I'm only 25, but I decided when I'm 60, I'll have 60 books. That was important.
There you go. There you go. Well, Kenny, tell me one of your philosophies.
I'm gonna tell a quote, if that's okay. I would like to say the one that I made when I was writing the book. It's my first quote I ever actually made, and it's tomorrow's my favorite day because I'm gonna be alive to enjoy it.
Oh, I love that.
Why don't you share your philosophy of either commitment or what you could do to make a difference in the world? Why don't you share those?
Okay. My philosophy for commitment is that you shouldn't say something you're not gonna do over and over again because you get a bad reputation. And
what would you like to change in the world?
I would like to change the world by global warming, and animals are getting extinct a lot, and pollution.
And he has a new fascination with ants.
Yes.
And he's got a company. We're not going to say it yet because we want to make sure we secure that domain, but he's going to have an ant company where he
Oh, awesome.
helps educate people on ants.
Yeah.
Are you gonna sell little ant farms too?
Oh yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is awesome. Those are the most fascinating things I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
And I'm gonna guess that you have part ant attitude because ants are just go, 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 and there isn't anything they can't do. And if I know anything about you and your dad, it's that you both go, 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 and there's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it.
That's right. Well, thank you, Kenny, for coming by and educating. Do you want to show? I brought a couple of your books up, I think. You want to show? He got a letter from President Biden for this book. Why don't you show that
Oh
up?
yeah. My favorite places in America.
Oh, awesome.
And then this was a book about overcoming your phobias he wrote. And
It's my first graphic book, like comic.
Oh, wow.
then this is his book. His 10th book. When he went to the zoo, he didn't like seeing well, I'll let him say.
Well, I didn't like seeing the animals locked in cages.
And so he made a book about the zoo and how an animal in the cage is sad. And then he went ahead and showed what the animals would look like if he had his magic glasses on and could show the power of these animals.
Oh, wow.
And then I'll let him read the last paragraph from the back of the cover because it's really very poignant and very wise what he shares on the back cover. You want to read this part to her?
Yes, and also this is a real story.
Yes, it is a real story.
Besides the magical glasses, that perspective. But Kenny decides to go to the zoo.
Oh, actually, you can do that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Kenny decides to go to the zoo and is surprised to see such sadness in the animals being captive. He discovers some magical glasses and a colorful spiritual world. It becomes his new reality when he puts them on. Go on this magical journey with Kenny and experience animals showing their inner spirit of freedom. When he returns home to his cats, he has a whole new perspective on caring for all living species. Kenny hopes to inspire you to have a voice against animal cruelty and protecting endangered species. Live free and love free. Kenny.
So every one of his books has a message about how you can be more of a leader in the world. So I'm very proud of that, especially his America book.
Yeah.
Because there's people that aren't proud of our country or don't know what they have here. And
I know, and that just shocks me. Just shocks me.
well, I will. I'm not going to put Kenny on the spot to say this quickly to you, but I want to say.
I think I could do it.
You think you can do it? Okay.
Wait, let me take a quick look.
So he learned something called the bottom line, which is something I used to give my kids who made excuses. And so he learned this probably about 4 years ago, and he, without having too much prep, he can rattle it off. But I want you to hear this, Karen, because if every kid and every adult had this program, like this mantra, I think we'd all be getting along a lot better. You want to go for it?
Okay. Face it, nobody owes you a living. What you achieve or fail to achieve in your lifetime is directly related to what you do or fail to do. No one chooses his parent or childhood, but you can choose your own direction. Everyone has problems and obstacles to overcome, but that too is relative to each individual. Nothing is carved in stone. Okay. There's one part then it's excuses for leave.
Yeah. I'll let you.
Okay. You could change anything in your life if you want to badly enough. Excuses are for losers. Winners take life challenges head on, knowing there are no guarantees, and give it all they got. Life plays no favorites, and time plays no favorites, and will pass whenever you act or not. Take control of your life. Dare to dream. Take risks. If you aren't willing to compete for your goals, don't expect others to. Believe in yourself.
Oh, that is awesome. And that's in one of your books, so everybody can get
Yes.
it and post it on their wall, right?
Yeah, the book he has that in is called "Be the Smartest Kid in the Room," and it challenges kids to know the periodic table or to know the Lord's Prayer or to know the Pledge of Allegiance. But if you know all these things and you can just quickly rattle them off, you probably are one of the smartest kids in the room.
Yeah. Oh, that is fabulous. Well, Kenny, I am so proud of you, and congratulations on your 14th book and on your signings. And I know that they're all going beautifully and will continue to go beautifully. And I am looking forward to your 15th book.
Well, we're going to get your address after the show. You'll text me, and I'll have Kenny sign a couple and send them to you, okay?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Can I
Kenny.
have the one with the quote in it?
Of course. Of
Because
course.
that's a great quote.
That's a great quote. Yes.
Yeah.
Great job, Kenny. Thank you.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Dr. Pickens.
Yes, nice meeting you, Kenny. See you later.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kenny. So we skipped ahead, obviously, because I wanted to take advantage of, if we ran out of time, that Kenny got a chance to share what I'm proud he's doing. And, you know, he really is inspiring me to be a better dad, a better leader, a better author, a better servant. I mean, just all these things. And it's kind of funny, but it is about what kind of role model are you being. And it's cyclic. And it's just like a smile. When you smile to someone and they smile back, that's cyclic.
Yeah.
So you get what you
Well, and you've got to take credit where credit's due. You're a phenomenal father that's helped inspire him to be the best him he can be and to continue to grow and progress in life, because not all kids have that fabulous role model, sadly, and they have to go out and search it. And for me, I want to say to all kids that they can look at you as their role model, even though you're not biologically their father, because you love people, period.
I do.
And you're a phenomenal role model. So
Well,
kudos
thank
to you.
I want to let you know that Kenny actually coaches kids on how to do a book, because the one thing I because of the progression of the show and him just kind of being a surprise guest, I didn't get to do the buildup of how insanely different he was before the pandemic. I mean, I don't think he really likes me sharing this part, but he was introverted. He didn't like his voice. He didn't like to be recorded. And if you recorded him and he caught you, he would tell you to delete it. He just did not want the stuff around. And when he did his first book, he didn't want to be on a podcast. And I said, why don't you just try it out? And if you don't want to be on a podcast ever again, you don't have to be. And he told a joke, and I probably should have almost had him tell the joke, but it's a joke that no matter how many times I tell it, even to the same people, they smile and they laugh the same. You want to hear the joke?
Yeah.
What did the father buffalo say to his son when he was going to school?
What?
Bye, son.
Oh, that's bad. I love it. I love it.
So the host said, well, tell me another. And he wasn't ready for that. And so he's digging through his joke book. He tells another, and she goes, tell me another. And by the third or fourth joke, I saw him shift from there's no way I would want to be on a podcast, which he said before the podcast, to I'm okay here. By the second or third podcast, he said, when's the next podcast? That's how much.
Oh.
And I think his joke book that really sold a lot of books, it shifted him from being introverted and not liking his voice and stuff to getting timing and having people laugh and seeing joy, and it builds his confidence up. And so it's funny, a joke book shifted how he felt about himself. A joke book.
I love that.
And you've seen what it's evolved to. I mean, he wrote this book in 12 days, and it is packed. It is not a light book. He said, I'm going to write 10,000 words, and I'm going to divide it by 10, and I'm writing 1,000 words a day. So he finished in 11 or 12 days because he just took a day off or two. But he knocked it out of the park, and I didn't touch it. It was so well written, I didn't need to touch it.
Oh, that is phenomenal.
Yep.
What a bright kid.
So my best advice, since you have me on your show, is have your son or daughter write a book, but why don't you write a book to be the role model of the show? It's something that's important. Because reading books are great, but when you write a book, you're mastering, you're getting, I mean, I call it the five letters, A, B, C, D, E. When you write a book, you get authority. Mm-hmm. You get a sense of business acumen because you're thinking about the cost. You're getting credibility because all of a sudden people want to write, oh my gosh, this book's amazing, or this boy's amazing, or this author's amazing, or this leader's amazing. You get distribution. I mean, your message can effortlessly get out to the world. And no matter what that distribution is, it's bigger than if you had to talk. And then the last one is E, and that's expertise. You can't write a book about being the best ant expert without studying the heck out of it to make the best book and becoming the best ant leader. So those are the A, B, C, D, E of why a book should be done by an adult or a child.
Well, and I agree. I think everybody should write at least one book. Now, I've written, I have no idea. Is that awful? People know exactly how many they've written. I've written at least 7, 8,
Hmm.
9. I've written at least 9. 3 all by myself, and that are just my children. And I just love, love that people can do this. But what I love more is that you publish them and you help people with writing books.
I
And so,
do.
how do people get in touch with you so that you can help them with that?
I have a phone number that I actually give out on shows because I really think that it's such an important step to do a book that I'm not afraid to have people call me and say, hey, how do I do it? So there's an interesting, the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
There's a 90-10 rule. There's a 96-4 rule. And there's a
Yeah.
99 rule. In other words, no matter which one you pick, the one equals the 99. In other words, if you talked about the wealthiest people in the world, their wealth of 1% equals the wealth of 99%. So it's interesting, but I have 3 stages that a book, I believe, goes in. And most people only know about stage 1. And stage 1 doesn't ever make you money, and stage 1 is making the book. But did you know that 99%, 99%, and I'll give or take a percent, say they're going to do a book and don't? It's a very, very high number. And there's something wrong there. And I'll tell you what I think is wrong. What I think is wrong is they've seen other people author a book and they didn't think it was important because they didn't make money, or they felt that they were a failure, and they're like, why do I want to sign up for this experience? And then there's the imposter syndrome. I mean, when I did my first book, I had it too. Who am I to write a book? Who's going to listen to me? Why am I doing this book? And you talk yourself out of it more than into it.
Right.
And if I hadn't had my mom pass of Alzheimer's, quite frankly, I probably wouldn't have written it. I committed to my mom on her deathbed. I said, within 1 year of your passing, my book will be out as a tribute to you. Now then it wasn't about me anymore. It was about her.
Yeah.
And so if you do a book for the people you love, I think that's the right thing to do, because how many people pass and you go, I wish I'd asked these questions.
Yeah.
And all my grandparents, I don't know, and they were very cerebral. I mean, I had my grandmother was a Mensa, and I don't know anything about her. I know she was super smart. I know you could pick up any literature book, any poetry book, and say, I don't know what this means, and she could rattle off the poem without even going to the book, and she could tell you what it meant. I mean, she was really bright. And my mom, like I said, it would have been great to do this book conversations with her.
Yeah.
Because I do have regrets about that, and I don't want that to happen to my dad. So I started recording our conversations about what it is that's important to him, what our family tree is, stuff like that. Because at least I can say, check. I at least didn't have to say later I didn't do it. So that's a biggie. And then the second stage is move a book. And as you know, moving a book is marketing, but it's actually way more than marketing. It's creating campaigns, and campaigns are what get people to be the president of the United States. I mean, it's kind of funny, but we have this person named Obama and we have this other person named Trump. And it's funny, without getting political, everyone would agree that they had one thing in common, even though they were diametrically opposed on everything. The one thing they had in common is they knew how to make a campaign that would win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that beautiful? 2 completely different people, and yet they got the same result because they actually knew what it is to make a campaign. And a campaign, I'll just share with your audience, I've been studying this a lot in the last 6 months or so, is when you're a brand new author, you can kind of put yourself at the bottom of the screen, wherever that is. Let's put it you right here. And you're kind of in the low percentile of how many people know you in the world, right? And the thing that, again, Obama and Trump had in common is when they both said and declared they were going to be president, everyone poo-pooed it. They just laughed and they said, there's no way. But they believed that they were up here, which is perception. And the perception is fed by either integrity or lack of integrity. And when it's integrity, it goes across and becomes reality. And when it's not integrity, it falls, it falters and just dissipates. And it dissipates faster the lower your integrity is, and it can stagger if you're haphazardly with your integrity. But we're all out of integrity, all of us in the world. That's what a human is. But what are you doing to clean it up? What are you doing to be the best version of yourself? What are you doing to make amends? What are you doing to just acknowledge it? Even just acknowledge it. And so I just want to say that we care so much about moving a book that we add an impact piece to our book program, which means that you're going to sell more books than if you didn't have the impact program. But more importantly, if you follow it and you read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point, you'll get a sense of, hey, if I work this, it's just going to be like me getting all of a sudden so good, I fly up. And I'm now a speaker that's sought after. And,
Yeah.
you know, a person who's in business that really is successful, they'll say something like this: my first 10 years of practice. And that was their tipping point time, right? And I've met people like Larry Winget, who said he's got 6 New York Times bestsellers. And I said, man, you've crushed it having 6 New York Times bestsellers. And he said, yeah, it only took me 21 books to get it out of my system to practice before he got books that were New York Times bestsellers. And he got the representation. But the most important one, Karen, as you know, I'm not teaching you this, I'm just sharing it, is book a sale. Use the book to start the conversation. Use the book to give it to the decision maker. Use the book to inspire someone, because when you inspire someone, they actually fall in love with who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And inspiration is 50% to 100% of the decision-making process of why someone will actually buy from you. 50% to 100%. It's 50% when someone's smart, and it's 100% when someone's not as smart. And I say that from a standpoint, when you buy with only inspiration, you're not doing your due diligence of social proof. And social proof is just find out what Google says. If Google says they have 100 people that are extremely satisfied, they love this person, you're probably safe with whatever money they're charging. And it doesn't matter what that is that they're charging. For instance, if someone's got 500 5-star reviews and they charge $50,000 to work with, your money's safe because everyone said their money was safe with this person. Ironically, if you spend $5,000 with someone and they don't have the stars, you may have just put it in the trash can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I am a very big proponent of making sure that social proof is working for the people I believe in, and also working for the company that I am serving. And I say serving because my team is as important to me as my clients.
Well, and I want to point out to everybody, I laugh, I've written all these books and it's like I can't even remember, because they weren't as important to me as they should have been. And I went with the publisher. It was before I knew you. I went with the publisher that didn't care and poo-pooed on the fact that you had a book. And he said, a book is just a calling card. And so I honestly began to develop that attitude that it's just a calling card, when in reality, the 3 I wrote by myself were really who I am and part of me, and a message that I wanted to share with the world. And it took me a long time to realize that it didn't matter what message I wanted to share if I didn't have the right people promoting it or helping me understand the value of promoting it.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds kind of wishy-washy right now, and I say it and it's like, how could you not know that, Karen? I didn't. I was younger. Yeah, I was young and naive, and I trusted whatever it was they said. They're a publisher, therefore they must be telling the truth. And in looking back, they had very low integrity, and it was money not well spent. Where you have high integrity and what you do for your people that are authors is so above and beyond that it's not just that you move their book, you move them and you move their message so that they can move others. And people need to know that.
I think a publisher, when they're doing the job they're really supposed to be doing, they're like an agent, they're a partner,
Mm-hmm.
they're right there making sure that the person's moving as fast as they can to make a difference. And I think a publisher's checkoff is when the author said, let's do it again. And when the author is obviously referring you, but when we have authors that have 3 books, we have some that have 10 books, we have some that want to move all their books over to us because they just want the representation to be correct. So I think that a publisher.
Now, I didn't realize I could move my books over to you. That's a good thing to know. And Jace put his information up again.
Yeah, that's called republishing. And so you're getting a new agent to make sure that your book is getting the love it deserves. And I mean, think of a book, to me, I think of a book as a kid, a baby. And if you have a doctor that gives a book to you and that's the baby and that's the book, and you don't nourish it with love and marketing dollars and attention, you're going to basically have a kid that doesn't feel loved and doesn't do anything for you. Yeah. And that's exactly what happens with a book. And so when a person drops their book and they get the Amazon bestseller, and that's the highlight of the entire career of the book, if you talk to Malcolm Gladwell, he'd say, well, of course it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so, there's all kinds of strategies too. This is one of my favorite books on being a book challenge. So this is a book challenge. You buy the 50 books in here and you learn about happiness. Now I have them for fatherhood. I have them for leadership. I have them for entrepreneur, but each page has a book. And if you bought each of these books 20 times 50, yeah, you're spending $1,000, but you're going to be happier because you're going to digest 1 hour a week, the expertise of that author. That author spent 9 months, 1 year, or in some cases, they would even define it their life. Because when I did my first book, that wasn't a book that took me a year. That was a book that took me a year based on the 39 years I'd already been living.
Right.
I mean, the first 25 years.
The first 25. Yeah. So I was telling you earlier, I've been 29, I think 33 times now. Yeah, I don't know. No, that's good to know. And I wanted to point that out again and then bring up your contact information, because there are a lot of people out there who have done books and they're not getting the message to enough people. And then there are people out there who have not yet done a book, who have a message to share, and they've not yet put it in a form that is getting out to people that they wouldn't elsewise just come across in their daily life.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and a publisher should not be a glorified printer. They really should be someone that strategizes with you and understands why you're doing the book and what you want the book to do, so that they can give you the advice. And it's not that hard to do this stuff. And I'm hoping that we're disrupting the publishing space enough that publishers say, yeah, that is the way it was, and that's the way it should be. Because really, when you published back in the day, it was very important who you had representing you, and they were representing you. They were really representing you.
Right. Yes. And I came in just after that. It was your number.
Yeah.
And so I want to hear a little bit more about your books that you've written.
Well, the book that I'm most excited about, and that's what you need to have. You have to have excitement about your newest book, or don't write it. And so my newest book is inspired by Kenny, and it is my first 60 years. And it has every book I did and what I learned from that book and how it changed my life. So it's a walkthrough. Here's my fatherhood, my 50 challenge fatherhood. And the back of the book says, my first 60 years, an autobiographical journey of books and how they reflect epiphanies and impacted my life. And the reason I want to say that is I chose not to write my life story in book 1, 2, 3, all the way to 59. I chose to write it actually 60 as my first book that I actually talk about my inner thoughts, my journey. And the reason I share that is I felt you have to prove something. And when I walked into a classroom to teach physics and chemistry, I was told often before I taught, hey, those that can do and those that can't teach. And when I went into the classroom, I was a veteran, commissioned officer. I had 2 successful businesses, and I could afford to teach. I could afford it. And so I think when you write a book, unless you're in your elder years, I highly encourage you to just write books on your expertise. Just write books to make a difference in people's lives. And then when you get some triumphs in your life, because the journey of a autobiography has to have the hero's story. It has to have where you were knocked down and where you got the trophy at the end, or where you saved somebody and you're acknowledged because you did the work. Sure. And so when I hear someone say they're going to do their memoirs, their autobiographical work, and it's their first book, I'm hoping I'm going to hear something really stellar, that they've lived the life that they don't have to say, and there's a part 2 later. I mean, just like really knock it out of the park.
Yeah. No, someday I'll write a memoir, but that's a long ways off.
Well, I'll say that a book does a couple things. It like my son, when I hear people, when he hears me talk about him, he turns to me and goes, Daddy, stop bragging. And I say, I'm not bragging, I'm proud. And when you write a book, you're able to interlace your story, and it's the free will of the reader to absorb what you've done. And the more vulnerable you are in that story, the more they're going to not only fall in love with who you are, but the more they're going to start relating to who you are. And so a book a year is probably a good practice. And I say that because I'm now doing 3 or 4 books, and the more I do, the more I actually grow. And just like Kenny, I did my quote. I think it's great to do a first quote, a page, or in the first page was a quote, and I have but one life. I have but one life to give, so I will live it to my fullest. I hope to honor God with the precious gift that inspires those I touch to smile more. And that's my quote. I just was downloaded, and I looked it up, and no one had said it before, so I took it, Dr. Smiley. But another thing that's really fun about a book is you get to put a couple names in the book at the front called dedication. And when you dedicate a book to someone, I think that's one of the biggest ways to honor them.
Yeah.
And the second best way is the acknowledgement section, just acknowledging people that touched your life. And when you get a book from someone, they put your name, that you're being acknowledged for changing their life. I mean, how does that make you feel? I mean, you just bubble up. So I think and then most people forget the back copy is important. So if you don't have a great cover, then it's not going to get picked up. And I've never had my face on the cover, by the way. Every one of the 59 books, none of them have my face on the cover on purpose, because I felt that the book was about the expertise, or was about the journey, or was about the reader. And this time it's definitely about me. So I put myself on the front cover. But the first thing they do is they look at it and they pick it up, and then they turn to the back. And if you don't have back copy that is going to talk about the reader, not about the book and not about you.
Yeah.
So I wrote that the book is about sharing epiphanies so that they can actually benefit from some of the things I've learned, because it's been a journey I've kept track of. And then so many books don't have about the author in them because they kind of know me, or I'll just put a little thing. But about the author is what you didn't put in the introduction, or what you didn't put in the journey. It's your accolades. It's what you've accomplished. And the last thing I'll share is, and by the way, dedication and acknowledgments, rarely done correctly. I mean, they're thrown together and they're underutilized. But the call to action, every book, as you said earlier, is a calling card. So what do you want them to do after they finish the book? You want them to go to your podcast. You want them to go to your group. You want them to read your next book. You want them to book a call. I mean, you want them to book you to speak. And that is a very high percentile too. So going back to 991, 99% of people say they're going to do a book, don't do a book. 99% cannot move a book to pay for the book that they made, so they don't do another book. And 99% do not know a book as a calling card, and they don't carry it with them, so they don't give it to call, and they'd rather sell the book than give it to cause a conversation. And the last 99 is most people do not have the right call to action in their book for the person to do anything but say, I guess I'm finished with that person.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Those
Wow.
are really big deals. And you have the right publisher, you have the right marketer, the right campaign strategist, you're never going to miss those things. And here's what's funny. There's no difference in the person. It's just having the best come out of that person.
Well, and it's having somebody know how to bring the best out in that person.
Right.
And I'd like to say we do it for ourselves, but the fact is that I sell other people 1,000% better than I sell myself. And it's not that I don't have self-confidence or high self-esteem. It's just I forget what's unique and extraordinary, because to me, I live with it all day, every day, and it's like nothing. And yet I look at other people and instantly I see their uniqueness and what's extraordinary about them. And I have no qualms in telling everybody about their uniqueness and their attributes. And so I think a lot of us are that way.
Yeah, I want to share a couple other benefits of having a book that you carry around with you, you actually carry with you. Number one is you start thinking about how it can be better. I mean, how can it be better? Just like, how can I be better? How can my son be better? How can my life be better? So you start making a new edition. So I already have a second edition of this with roughly 300 improvements. Okay.
Wow.
And that's because I thought of things that could make it better. There's one thing that's not in this book. I was going to show it to you, but it's in the new book. It says a quote that I just absolutely love by Groucho Marx. It's outside of a dog, a book is man's best friend. Inside a dog is too dark to read. And I have every single page. I have every page intentionally, hopefully causing this.
Yeah.
Every page I wrote, I wanted that to happen. So write a book where you don't do filler. Write a book like Scott Stratton. I just love quoting what I experienced from him. He's the one who had My Life is My Message.
Yeah.
He was asked, how often should you blog? And I just loved his answer. It was almost as if a monk or Gandhi was speaking. He says, as often as you have something to say. Beautiful, right?
Oh, I love that.
And then
I love that.
and then a person next, pretty close to that person said, well, I have another question. How long should a blog be? And he says, as long as you have something to say. And so I encourage people to do books that are fun and short,
Yeah.
and even pocket versions. I mean, this book here has 100 words that you could learn, but this does too. It just has you can fit in your pocket, so you can actually learn those words. And
Yeah.
I wish I had it handy, but I have the card deck that looks just like this. It's 52 cards. You can play the cards, learn the words. And giving reviews, this is one of the best little secrets here. If you do a book with us, your book is in here, okay?
Uh-huh.
And when you do a review, don't look at it as a task. Look at it as you're giving gratitude, first of all. And number two, you're giving yourself advertising. Because
There you go.
if you can do 1,000 reviews, I got news for you. You're in 1,000 places that people say, I got to learn about this person, or who is this
Yeah,
person? Because he's
yeah.
great. And by the way, if you learn to do great reviews, you also learn to do better video. You learn to do better copy, everything. So it's important. But I want to share that when you carry a book around with you on a regular basis, you have something handy you could just give to someone that inspires you. If someone inspires me, I have a book typically handy. I try to give away one book a day. That's my goal, one book a day. Sometimes I'm lucky and I do two, and rarely is it zero. But if I leave my house, I can usually give a book away. So pick a book that would make a difference for that person. So I usually have 5 different books in my car, which if they have a child, I give them one of Kenny's books. If they could use a biographical, or they could use something that just makes them like a pocket quote book is fun to give. And would you rather, Karen, get a book that is $19.95, or would you rather get a $20 Starbucks card from the person?
Me,
that wrote the book?
I would rather have the book.
Yeah, because you get the signature, you get to learn about the person, and you'll probably make more money than $20 if you apply anything in the
Well,
books. Like,
let's be honest, and I'm going to be crude here for a minute. I can drink my Starbucks and then I'm just going to pee it out. It doesn't stay with me. But if I read a book, that's knowledge I have that changes my life forever.
and there's a quote by Charlie Tremendous Jones that says, the difference between where you are today and where you'll be in 5 years are the people you meet and the books you read, and they both lead to the same success.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool, isn't it? And I love quotes. One more, I have 2 quotes that I'm living by right now that they just inspire me and fuel me. Quote number 1 is Gandhi. It was one I hadn't heard or seen, and it's description of what happiness is. So he says, happiness is when what you think and what you say and what you do are in harmony.
Oh, I like that.
And no matter how inconsistent you've ever been, when you hear that quote and you apply it to your life, you will become more consistent. And the more consistent you are, consistency is synonymous with integrity.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And then there was a gentleman, Cliff Rogers. He's a photographer. He spent a lot of time in Nepal and India, and he became a monk. And he wrote this gorgeous book. And I bought the book only because his opening page, he reads his opening page. I go, I'm sold. And the opening page was a quote. And it said, I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to love you. And love will teach you.
Oh, I love that.
And that's how much a book can change your life. You open up to an arbitrary page, and on this arbitrary page, I remember taking this picture of this girl in Madagascar, and I remember when Michelle Obama turned over to me because she heard my camera clicking, and she gave me a funny look like, okay, get your shot, because she heard my camera clicking, and I guess it was a little bit loud. And on the bottom here, it says genuine fake watches. And so this by itself and I have trivia on the pages. So it's a fun, like on this one, the movie on page 74 just happens to be It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, director Frank Capra. And I'm just saying this is something that will change your life. So I put things on these pages that will change your life, guaranteed. And
Yeah.
and so that's what a book can do. And the biggest part of all is it can tell the people you love who you are, and it can also allow you to show how grateful you are for them.
I love that. So tell me about what book was it that you wrote for your mother? Was it My First 60 Years? Was it?
Well, my first 60 years could not have been done because I think I was 2009, and
Oh,
she
okay.
died October 2008, and I was at something like 40 some books when my son said to me, "Daddy, if I write 4 more books in the next 2 years, I'll have 10 books for my 10th birthday." And he got my wheels spinning, like, can I even do this? And I'll tell you, some of the books were books like this were easier to get done. I could get this book done in about a month or less. And
Mm-hmm.
some books I collaborated with only one person, and they helped me get the book done. But I mapped it out of what I'd have to do, and it was a chore. But man, I learned so much from doing it. And that book had nothing to do with my mom. It had to do everything to do with my mom inspiring me and being the catalyst to do it. It was a business book, and it was something that I was told. I was told I was the perfect networker. And I wrote a book called Becoming the Perfect Networker because I was at networking events all the time. I love people, and I always
Yeah.
stayed in touch with them. And I had a real knack for, because I did it so often, how to give value to somebody. And I read a book called The Go Giver by Bob Berg, and I learned how to network at a whole different level, because when you're networking at a low level, you're collecting cards and not doing anything with them. When you're networking at a higher level, you're getting information like birthdays, and you're taking selfies together, and you're causing yourself to at least remember their birthday and to get them in your cell phone so you start using it. But if you're going at a super high level, I almost call it the highest level, you find 3 people in the group that you could change their life or give them value that has them say, "What can I do for you?" And I started getting really good at that. I could meet, instead of having a task of meeting 100 people and collecting cards or whatever, I'd try and meet, I don't know, 15. And I'd try and find, until I hit 3 people I knew I could serve, I was good. And I would leave and say, I think I can help you. And I'd connect them. And I started learning that was more important than getting cards. That was more important putting people on your phone. So
Yeah.
it's been a fun ride. So besides and by the way, if you're at a networking event and you have a book, you say, "Hey, I'd like to give one of these away today. Would you like to use this as a door prize?" And they'll show the book. And if no one else gave a book, guess what? You just got some free publicity to 50 people or 100 people or whatever amount of people there are.
Yeah.
So there's gifting you instead of a gift card, and there's the cost factor. I mean, a Starbucks $20 gift card, how much does that cost?
20 bucks.
20 bucks. A book that you did, admittedly, maybe you spent $20,000 to get it done, but the book's being printed through Amazon is about $5. So
Right.
you're putting 15 bucks back in your pocket every time. So if I can give away 100 books or more a year as gifts, I'm